within the family farm and the small business, you know, you're working with your family members, and you just can't fire family. You know, you look at our society though in general. You know, what's the most popular television show? Well, for quite a few years it was Survivor. You know, where you put a bunch of people on the island, and one by one they assign all their blames for all their problems and get rid of that person off the island. Well, you just can't vote your father, your brother, or your sister off the island, you know. But a lot of times, a lot of family farms and a lot of family businesses, there's days when you want to vote a family member off the island. And that goes back to the day of Henry Ford. When he started Ford Motor Company, he paid 5 times the average wage because he expected to get the best performance out of the best employees. And if you didn't hit his expectations, you got rid of them. General Electric, under Jack Welch, they got rid of 10% of their staff every month because they wanted to weed out and assign blame to individuals. That doesn't work in a family farm. And how we function has got to be different than the culture of corporate America. It's a family business. Instead of blaming an individual, you've got to learn how to problem solve together as a family. And I have a family farm, for instance, where they had a mediator. They had 4 mediators out on the family farms. And a lot of those mediators couldn't hack it, and none of them succeeded. Because you had 3 brothers, and there's a family of 10 kids. 3 brothers and a father, always blaming each other for all the problems. And, you know, the day I showed up, as their last attempt, I was their 4th mediator that they had out there. One brother had shown up, he had just got back from rehab. He had become an alcoholic because he was a closet drinker. Because on that family farm, they always assigned blame to one another, and for a period of time, he was a scapegoat. You know, 3 years before, the one brother, one of the other 10 kids, was fired from the farm, and he was next, unless he turned his life around. And really, the reason he drank was it just was a stressful environment to work in. And but he got assigned a lot of the blame. And the matter was to change the culture of the family farm from assigning blame to one another and having a culture of voting somebody off the island to problem solving. And how we did that was we got the family to look at their production problems. We didn't talk about the interpersonal problems they had within the family first. I got them to talk first of all about the things that they felt comfortable with, and that was about production. And even that was a touchy issue. You see, this was actually one of the best farms in the county, if not Ontario itself. You know, there was not a blade of grass out of place. And when I asked them, what are the things that you suck at? They said, we suck at nothing. Who are you to tell us that we suck? And within the farm, exteriorly to the community, they want everything to be perfect. Within the family farm context, each individual walked around as if he was perfect. And that's why they shifted blame to the other individual rather than dealing with the problem themselves. So getting them to actually sit down and problem solve together was a major feat. And what we did was we got them to identify one problem. They had a problem getting cows pregnant. And they blamed the barn, they blamed on each other. But we got them to systematically go through a flow chart and figure out what are all the possible causes. And then what can we do about changing those causes? And what can we solve this problem? And then we started assigning roles and responsibilities to each individual so that everybody walked away with a couple things to do to fix a problem over the next couple months. And over the period of 6 months, we improved the pregnancy rate by 10%. And for that 300 cow dairy herd, that was a $115,000 improvement. And for that family, it was important for them to see the bottom line. They realized it wasn't just wishy-washy to sit down for an hour to figure out using a flow chart. It was actually a valuable use of their time. And more fundamentally, when they got together for Christmas that year, because they learned how to problem solve, they stopped blaming each other as much. And as a result, they got along a heck of a lot better. Day to day, there wasn't the stress. And Christmas that year was phenomenal. I got a thank you note from the mom because of that. And here's the other thing I did with this family was, you know, it's important to learn how to solve problems together as a family. And we expanded that to solving bigger strategic issues, not just preg rates. But, you know, interpersonal problems, pet peeves. You know, within every family farm, I don't know if you've ever had a stone in your shoe. I got a stone in my shoe right now. And you know, when you got a stone in your shoe, if you walk around in it for a day, it's going to affect your foot. And you walk away, do that for a week, you're going to go lame. And in too many family farms, there's 5 or 6 and sometimes 12 stones in their shoes. Or make an analogy, pet peeves, things that bother you about the other family members and what they do. And over a period of time, those pet peeves cause you the families to fall apart. Quite often you see brothers or siblings split family operations and lose their economies of scale and eventually lose the farm, or, you know, get out of farming because of these pet peeves. And so the question is, how do you get rid of pet peeves? And the way you do that is by once a month, as part of my family business meetings, one of the most uncomfortable discussions we have, but most critical parts, is what's one thing that bothers you about the other individual. For that family farm where the brother was an alcoholic and always being blamed, he was a scapegoat. He slept in. You know, he didn't show up to the barn sometimes till 4:30 in the morning when he should have showed up at 4 o'clock. And that caused problems later in the day when the one brother was wanting to clean out pens, and it just caused a whole bunch of problems later in the day. And that was one pet peeve that caused the one brother to want to leave the operation itself, and really hated and grew to resent the brother. Well, and the brother that was the alcoholic, he says, you know, I'm not the only one that sleeps in. And so we walked away with a policy that nobody can be late to the barn more than 5 minutes. And if you did, you had to put $5 in the cookie jar. Well, the brother was an alcoholic. He, instead of sleeping in 20 times that month, he slept in twice. And the next month he slept in once, and now I haven't heard for a couple months that he slept in at all. It changed his behavior. And it gained respect from his other family members for making the little change that should happen, but, you know, just a little change in his personality made a big change in how they respected him. And it made the other family members hopeful that if we can make a little change like that, then we can work way through all our problems. And they have. That family, they've made 4, each family member walked away with one thing to work on. That's 4 improvements a month, or 48 improvements a year. And that family has made about 30 improvements. Now, there's a few things that they still are working on, but they've made 30 improvements over the last year. And that, my friends, that instead of splitting the farm 3 different ways, as their father was talking about, they're building a $2 million barn expansion. And they're committed to being with each other for the next 20 years. And that is substantial. Not only the fact that the farm is more economically viable by not being diluted and retaining its economies of scale, and most importantly, the talents. The 3 brothers all had different talents. And had they farmed on their own, they wouldn't be able to do it. But the 3 of them together were really taking on the world together. But more importantly, family Christmas is a lot more fun. And so I think that the culture of blame, we've got to change it. It might work for General Electric, but it doesn't work for the family farm. It doesn't work for family business of any kind. You just can't vote your family members off the island.